One of the things when I came to South Dakota State I was really surprised about was the culture, the quality, the strength, the professionalism of the foundation, all the people that work there. And I was really impressed with the passion in that group. And I'm just comparing it to my previous experience. But in so many ways, the foundation was so energized. And then I got, of course, invited to some of the meetings with Board of Trustees came in, and people who have a heart for kids and a passion for education in South Dakota State. And they're wearing the jackrabbit with a lot of pride. And it's just kind of contagious. And the more I looked around and heard from the trustees, it reminded me of this story that I'd heard probably 15 or 20 years ago. But it just was so fitting, I thought. And for those of you that are listening to this, I guess, give me a minute. And at the end of a minute, you're going to say, this guy's crazy. But stick with it just a few more minutes, and then hopefully I can pull things together. It's the story of a island nation, and the difficulty of this island nation is that the land is very different. There's different kinds of geography, and there's a desertous region and a rainforest, and there's a mountainous region, and the citizens on the island have had trouble being successful, even though they're quite capable, quite able. But you can't travel, you can't connect, you can't share resources. And so the king of the island recognizes the problem, but even recognizing the problem, it still takes a lot of time and investment and a lot of money to build a road that would connect all four parts of this island. And so after some thought, the king decides he's going to commit to that, and so they do. They build the road, and it's difficult, but eventually it's done. It takes forever. You know how road construction is. It takes forever, and they get the island connected. And when it's complete, they really want to recognize the accomplishment. And so the king declares that he's going to have a celebration of the road opening, and he sends banners out to all corners of the island, and states that we're going to celebrate the road, the opening, and there'll be a great reward for the citizen that travels the road the best. And so on the day of the celebration, that morning, as you can expect, the trumpeters are unpacking their trumpets, and the banners are up in front of the castle, and the food is being prepared, and it's a big celebration, kind of an exciting atmosphere. And so ultimately the contest starts after the citizens arrive, and there's all kinds of citizens, by the way. Some are on foot, some are dressed very plainly, some are dressed up very well, some are on horseback, some are in chariots, some are in wagons. So they sound the bugles, and in a cloud of dust, all the citizens take off down the road to travel the road the best. And a few hours later, the first competitor comes in and is before the king. And the competitor is a little out of breath, but has the most beautiful horse, the strongest horse, and the rider is fit and strong and looks magnificent. And it gets off the horse and kneels before the king, says, "Your Majesty, what an amazing road you've built. I bet nobody's traveled this island as quickly as I did. Surely that's not happened. But because of the road, I could do that." And, you should know, it was fantastic that I was in one side of the villages and out the other side before people even saw me. I was a blur. It was incredible. And I'd have been back even sooner, except, as you may be aware, there's a whole pile of rocks about a mile down the road. And I actually had to slow down and walk the horse around, or I'd have been back even sooner. I would have been faster. And so the king thanks him and sends him on his way. And then not too long after that, the second competitor arrives, and the second competitor, they're riding a chariot, and the chariot is bejeweled, and all of the harness work is bejeweled, and the horse is beautiful, and the rider is wearing the most elegant clothes, and there are banners, streamers that would go behind the chariot. And the rider gets off and says, "Your Majesty, what an amazing day, a beautiful day to be out on the new road. You should have seen us. We were riding across the countryside in these silk streamers. You could see them for miles, and people would see us coming, and they lined up both sides of the road as we'd go through their village, and they'd applaud. It was just a beautiful sight to behold." Well, there was one part that wasn't all that beautiful. Did you know there's a big pile of rocks, like construction debris, blocking the road, and we had to unhitch the chariot and fold up the streamers and carry them. It wasn't all that glamorous, but otherwise it was a beautiful, elegant day. And so the king thanks the writer and says, you've done a job well, thank you, and sends them on their way. And so all, similar stories come in the rest of the afternoon as the citizens complete the road. And the sun's starting to set and the food is gone and the trumpeters and buglers are packing up. And there's the last citizen comes in. The last citizen's out of breath, it's really dirty, got dust all over, and walks in front of the king and says, "Your Majesty, I really apologize, I missed the celebration. It's a beautiful road. What an accomplishment for the citizens of the island nation." And he says, "I'm sorry I'm so late. I know I missed the celebration, but did you know about a mile back there's a pile of rocks blocking the road with all this construction debris?" So I knew that was just going to be in the way and kind of would cause problems for people who were coming next. So I just started to take the rocks and throw them off to the side of the road, but it took me a good part of the afternoon. And when I got to the bottom was this bag of gold with your name on it. So I wanted to return that to you. And of course the king says, "Oh no, that's your reward because you traveled the road the best. You took the time to clear the way for those who were coming behind you." And I did think of that story when I thought of the trustees and met some of them and what they do. They're clearing the way for kids and young people to have success. Kids that don't even know they need help yet. But it reminded me of that too, because you've got the fast rider, and we don't always see, our projects don't always go as fast as we wish sometimes. Success doesn't always come as fast as we'd like sometimes. And the beautiful riders with the chariot, sometimes we don't get to work with the most beautiful situations. Sometimes we got to work with some ugly situations and get our hands dirty, just as that last traveler. And so I do think about that with the trustees and the work they do behind the scenes that nobody sees, the commitment in time and treasure and phone calls and literally getting their hands dirty to clear that way for young people. And I just love that. What a way to use your time and talent. So I just applaud your group and the trustees and the time they put in, and just know that there's no better thing happening in South Dakota than this kind of work for young people. Clearing the way. As an educator, I felt like that's why I went into education. There's no more noble cause than to make the path smooth for people. And I said this a year ago, I think, when I had the opportunity to meet with the group. Education is the cradle from which all other occupations spring forth. They all have to come through education, to some learning process. And so I think it's a terrific way to invest your time and efforts.